Hey guys, it's Michael here and I'm super excited because a few days ago we got the Pod 3 from 8 Sleep. That's the company's latest incarnation of its awesome bed cooling solution. And in this video I'm gonna tell you everything you need to know about why temperature control is important for sleep quality, why we like and have been using the 8 Sleep system for a couple of years now, and whether or not you should invest in a bed cooling solution like the Pod 3 or even consider upgrading if you have either a previous generation from 8 Sleep or maybe another solution. Now, if you want to support this channel, make sure you subscribe and you hit the alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. Now, if you're new to bed cooling and you wonder, what's the point of it, I highly recommend you check out my video that I did on the impact of temperature on sleep quality. But in a nutshell, your body changes temperature several times throughout the night. It needs to cool down a little bit before you can fall asleep. It needs to be relatively cool during the first half of the night when you experience most of your deep sleep. It warms up a little bit during the second half of the night when you have most of your REM sleep. And so it's important to at least not be in the way of your body's natural temperature changes. However, with thick bed covers, with AC units or lack thereof, there's always a potential to be in the way of allowing your body to change its temperature. And you might have experienced that when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're suddenly too hot or too cold and you remove the cover or put them back on. I've had this a lot of times in the past. And so by leveraging a bed or mattress cooling solution, you can support your body in those different temperature changes throughout the night and thus improve the quality of your sleep and help you fall asleep quicker. But again, check out my video if you want to learn more about that. Now, before we talk about what's new in the Pod 3, let me tell you a little bit about the 8 Sleep system in general and its benefits and how it can help you improve the quality of your sleep. Now, with 8 Sleep, you get a couple of different components, and one of those components is called an active grid. It's a mattress cover that you can zip on, and it includes two main components. One are very comfortable silicone tubes that have water in them, temperature controlled water based on your preferences. And the active grid also has passive sensors that can measure your heart rate variability, your movements, the stage of sleep that you're in, so it can tell you whether you're in light sleep, in deep sleep, in REM sleep, or if you're awake, and many other things. But those are the two main components: the water cooling, so to say, and the sensors, the passive sensors that measure your heart rate and other biometrics. The second component of 8 Sleep is what's called a hub, and that's the central control unit basically that has the water reservoir, it has the pump, it has all the electronics that does all the data crunching, and it's also the component that's connected to your Wi-Fi. And that's important because a lot of people are concerned whenever there is sleep technology involved about electromagnetic fields and electromagnetic radiation. And with 8 Sleep, the active grid that goes on your mattress that you sleep on does not emit any EMFs. It's a passive component, or it includes passive components like sensors and water tubes that don't emit electromagnetic fields or electromagnetic radiation. The hub, on the other hand, that's the component that you can move away from your bed, that is connected to your Wi-Fi and does all the data crunching. You can also get a memory foam mattress if you get the entire sleep system, and that's what we did because at the time our mattress was already 10 years old and was due for replacement. So we got the entire set, including a very comfortable memory foam mattress, the active grid, as well as the hub. But if you have a mattress that you already like and you just want to get the bed cooling benefits of 8 Sleep, then you can actually go with a package that contains the hub and the active grid only and use your existing mattress. One of the things that sets 8 Sleep apart from some of the other solutions I've tested is the ability to regulate the temperature of your mattress surface individually for both sides of the mattress. So in other words, my wife can use different temperature settings than I, because she likes to sleep a little bit warmer and I like to sleep a little bit colder. So we can set the temperature on each side of the mattress individually based on our personal preferences. But that's not all. In addition to that, I can set different temperatures for the different stages of sleep that I'm in. So in other words, I like to have my mattress and my bed fairly cold when I go to bed. So I have a relatively cold setting for bedtime. I warm it up slightly for my first half of the night, which is when I have most of my deep sleep. I warm it up even more for my second half of the night when I have most of my REM sleep. And I warm it up even more when I wake up. So I feel comfortable and it makes it easier for me to get out of bed. But those 4 different temperature settings you can change based on your individual preferences. Now, there are some recommendations, like for example, your body needs to reduce its core temperature by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit to fall asleep. So that's why it's recommended to have a slightly colder temperature for bedtime. Your body also needs to be relatively cool during deep sleep. It should be a little bit warmer during REM sleep, and then for waking up, that's really completely up to you if you want to have it cold, or if to kind of be forced to get out of bed, or if you want to have it warm and cozy. That's totally up to you. But for the first 3 stages, it's ideal to follow like a certain curve that mimics the body's natural temperature changes. And for me, or with 8 Sleep, there are settings from -10, which is very cold, to +10, which is hot, and anything in between. And so I have my settings for sleep. For bedtime, it's -5, then it warms up slightly to -3. It's still cold, but a little bit warmer than my initial temperature. For REM sleep, it's around -1. So again, it's below my neutral temperature, but warmer than deep sleep and my falling asleep temperature. And then for waking up, I typically have it around 0 or 1, so either neutral or slightly warmer than that. And again, you can set those individual stages automatically. 8 Sleep also has what's called an autopilot. So based on the temperature of your room, based on your body or skin temperature, 8 Sleep can not only recommend the ideal settings for you, but can also make changes. So for example, if your room is warmer in summer than it is in winter, or if you change the setting of your AC, 8 Sleep can adapt to that and automatically either recommend changes or make those changes for you. So you always have the ideal temperature based on your preferences, based on your sleep history, and some of the other factors that 8 Sleep can take into account. So that's fairly neat. And it's also what makes 8 Sleep unique and different from most of the other bed cooling solutions on the market and the ones that I've tested. Besides the bed cooling feature, the other thing that I really like about 8 Sleep is its sleep tracking capabilities. So as I've mentioned before, the Active Grid, that mattress cover that is part of the 8 Sleep system, consists of sensors, and those sensors can monitor movement. So if I move around, there are pressure sensors built into the cover. It detects any body movement, but it also detects the force of your beating heart. So in other words, it can track your resting heart rate while you sleep and changes through the different stages of sleep. It can also calculate your heart rate variability, and that's the difference in timing between heartbeats. And I have a separate blog post and article that talks more about HRV and why that's important. I'm going to link it down below. But in a nutshell, the variability between your heartbeats, so the variability between the timing of your heartbeats, give an indication of how your nervous system is doing. And that's a reflection of how recovered you are in the morning. So in other words, if you have a strenuous workout the previous day, or if you're getting sick, or if you're super stressed, all of that is reflected in your HRV. So by looking at how your HRV is trending, whether it's going up or it's going down or it's staying flat, you can get an indication of how physically and mentally ready your body is to take on more strain and more stress the previous day. And many athletes use that to plan their training better. If they're completely run down, you can always see that in your HRV. And I look at my HRV every morning because it gives me an indication of how ready I am and my body is physically and mentally to take on stress, be it exercise-induced stress, be it work-induced stress or something else. So it can help me really understand how I'm feeling reflects my ability to perform mentally and physically. And 8 Sleep can track HRV and can also correlate it with certain behaviors that you can tag in the app. So you can say you had alcohol the night before, you drank caffeine, you worked out, and all of those things 8 Sleep can then correlate and can tell you, hey, we are detecting certain trends that anytime you drink alcohol, you're not sleeping so well, A, and B, your HRV goes down. Besides the heart rate and heart rate variability, one of the core biometric tracking features of 8 Sleep is the ability to show you how much time you spend in the individual phases or stages of sleep. And so you can tell how much time you spend in light sleep, in deep sleep, in REM sleep, how often you wake up during the night, how many tosses and turns you have, how restless your sleep is, in other words, or restful. All of those are great indicators to give you a little bit of insight into the quality of your sleep. Because if you're not sleeping well and you're trying to improve the quality of your sleep or the time it takes you to fall asleep, you need to be able to track those numbers to see those improvements. Yes, you can certainly tell by how you feel in the morning, but often it's very helpful to see that reflected in actual data, to see, okay, today I don't feel that great. And you look at the data like, well, I didn't spend a lot of time in deep sleep maybe, or I didn't spend a lot of time in REM sleep, maybe because, I had a glass of wine too much the night before and this disrupted the quality of my sleep. All of those can really help you improve your sleep and keep tabs on those important sleep metrics. And 8 Sleep does a great job on that, and it's constantly evolving. They constantly add new features, more correlations that give you more insights into how you're sleeping and suggest ways that you can implement to improve your sleep. Another little feature that's really cool, I think, is 8 Sleep can track the rate, your respiratory rate, meaning how often you breathe while sleeping. And the respiratory rate is also a good indication that can tell you if your body is dealing with something, maybe a sickness, maybe some type of maybe a respiratory infection or something of that nature. So respiratory rate typically is fairly stable and you shouldn't see a lot of variation. But if you see suddenly, if your respiratory rate increases from maybe 12 breaths per minute to 15, 16, 17, that's an indication that there is something going on. And that could be, again, illness, it could be stress or something else that causes you suddenly to breathe more frequently than usual. And that's, again, every morning I look at that in the 8 Sleep app and I make sure that my respiratory rate is somewhat flat and consistent. If it is, everything is good. If I see sudden drops or sudden spikes, then I can think about, okay, what could be the reason for that? And I can take appropriate action. So let's talk about what's new in the Pod 3, the latest version of the 8 Sleep system. Now, we just got our Pod 3 a couple of days ago. We used to have the Pod Pro, which was a previous generation product from 8 Sleep. And we've been using the Pod Pro for at least a year, maybe 2 years. It's been a while and we really love it. And so we got super excited when 8 Sleep announced the Pod 3 and even more excited when we finally got the shipment delivered and we upgraded it, which was, by the way, no big deal at all. We just swapped out the active grid and swapped out the hub. And that was pretty much it. We kept the memory foam mattress. There was no need to replace that. So what's new in the Pod Pro? Well, there are a couple of things that 8 Sleep improved, and one of them is the active grid. There are a couple of changes that the company did to the active grid. That's the mattress topper that wraps your mattress, either be it the 8 Sleep one that we have or the one that you might already have at home. And what the company did is they increased the number of sensors, and in fact they doubled the number of sensors. And what that means is that 8 Sleep is now even more accurate in detecting movement and heart rate data. They also increased the resolution of those sensors by 4,000 times. And again, higher resolution means more accurate data, be it heart rate data, be it movement data, because all of that is important, obviously, to keep tabs on your heart rate and heart rate variability and respiratory rate, but also to better detect what stage of sleep you're in. And so by doubling the amount of sensors and dramatically increasing the resolution, 8 Sleep can now do an even better job at detecting and monitoring your sleep, the stages of sleep you're in, and some of the biometric factors that 8 Sleep reports via its app. They also improved the comfort of the active grid, but I have to be honest, even the previous generation was super comfortable. I mean, those silicone tubes that are in the active grid that circulate the water, you don't feel them. I mean, you can, if you really rub against the active grid, you can tell that there is something in there, but if you just lie on them, or even if you toss and turn it, etc., you don't feel those tubes. But now they're even more comfortable. So I don't know if anyone ever complained about the comfort. As I said, I thought they were super comfortable to start with, but now they are maybe even a bit more comfortable than they were before. The other thing that 8Sleep did is they improved the hardware in the hub by basically upgrading the CPU, making it more powerful, because the more data the hub receives from the active grid, the more raw data comes in, the more data needs to be crunched, and that required a better, more powerful, more capable CPU, central processing unit. So it's basically a computer upgrade, if you will, that they did to the hub to crunch all of the data and make the hub even more responsive and better at interpreting the data and then delivering you reports that are actionable that you can use to not only understand how you're sleeping, but also what you can do to improve your sleep. The other thing that's new as far as the hub is concerned is its Wi-Fi capability. So in the past, the hub supported only 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi networks, and now it supports 5 gigahertz networks as well. While that might sound like a minor technical change that many people probably don't even know what that means or why that's important, but let me tell you that the 2.4 gigahertz band is good because you typically get more reach out of it. So if you have only one access point in your house, then with 2.4 gigahertz, chances are you get a more reliable signal if your hub is far away from the access point. The downside of 2.4 gigahertz is that band is super crowded because a lot of devices operate in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and so you might get competition and actually a less reliable signal, dropped connectivity, etc. And so by adding 5 gigahertz support, we get more bandwidth, a bigger spectrum, so to say, that allows the hub to more reliably communicate with access points that speak 5 gigahertz, and most modern access points do. So the downside of 5 gigahertz is that it's a little bit less, it's more prone to interference. So if the hub is far away from your access point and there are a couple of walls, windows, or appliances between the access point and the hub, then 5 gigahertz might not be ideal, but at least now it supports both, so you can do either or. In our home here, all of our IoT devices, so all the smart light switches and all the little appliances that we use to make our home a smart home, are on 2.4 gigahertz. And I have several access points throughout the house that speak specifically to those devices. So we've been fine with 2.4 gigahertz, but for the average consumer that might have only one access point or one modem access point combination at home, the 5 gigahertz is a welcome upgrade because it might make the connection more reliable. And those were the upgrades. So if you're new to bed cooling systems, if you don't have one yet, but you know that you're a hot sleeper or a cold sleeper and you can't quite get the temperature right and you want to jump onto the bed cooling bandwagon, the Pod Pro is the best bed cooling solution on the market as far as I'm concerned. I've not had anything that's more advanced, better in terms of cooling performance, heating performance. I mean, you can use the Pod 3 to warm your mattress or make it hot if you're an incredibly cold sleeper. But even though I keep saying bed cooling solution, you can also warm it if you want to. It's the most advanced one, the most reliable one. It's the best one in terms of the reporting, the cooling and heating capability, and just overall a very well-rounded system that we've been really happy with. In fact, we are so happy with 8Sleep that we started wondering, okay, what are we gonna do when we go on vacation? We can't bring that stuff. Or what if we spend a couple of weeks or longer at our in-laws or at my in-laws? They have a beach house in Costa Rica, and I'm like, what are we gonna do there? Well, now that we upgraded to the Pod 3, we actually have the Pod Pro, the previous system, and we're gonna take it to Costa Rica, so we have a nice system there as well. But anyway, if you're new to bed cooling, 8Sleep is an excellent solution. If you're due for a mattress upgrade, get the entire system consisting of the memory foam mattress, the active grid, and the hub. If you're happy with your existing mattress, the cover only is great as well. Including the active grid and the hub, no mattress. If you already have a system and are considering upgrading, there are actually some incentives right now where 8Sleep gives you a discount if you're an existing customer with an older solution. If you have the Pod Pro like the one we had and you just got it maybe half a year ago, is it worth upgrading? Maybe if you have use for the old system. Like in our case, it made total sense because now we can use the Pod Pro in another location and we enjoy the Pod 3 in the bed that we sleep in most of the time. So to wrap it up, the Pod Pro is, in my opinion, the best bed cooling, mattress cooling solution on the market. We've been using 8 Sleep, the previous generation Pod Pro, for over a year at least, maybe 2 years, and we absolutely love it. We can't imagine not having it anymore. It's been such a game changer in terms of improving the quality of our sleep on the one hand, but also improving the perceived quality, meaning not just looking at the metrics and seeing how much more deep and REM sleep, etc. we get and how much quicker we fall asleep, but just feeling better and more comfortable in our bed, because we are never too hot, we are never too cold, we are just at the ideal temperature throughout the night by leveraging the pod at the end of the day to support our body's natural temperature changes. That's been an absolute game changer for us. I highly recommend you try that out. If you've never used a bed cooling solution, the Pod 3 is the absolute best that's on the market as far as I'm concerned. I've tested several others. They're good as well, but nothing comes close to what 8 Sleep delivers with the Pod 3. If you have a previous version of it, it might be worthwhile hanging on to it for a little bit longer, unless you have a second bed that you want to equip with the pod, then it might be worth upgrading. If you have anything else out there, be it a bed fan, be it a regular fan, be it an AC that changes the temperature of the entire room, I highly recommend you check out the Pod 3. You're gonna sleep so much better, I promise you. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments what I could have done better. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.